The president last night, when I was asking him questions in the Oval Office, was eager to suggest that the tariff rate on China was too high, would be coming back down. Also suggested that he had no intention of firing Jay Powell. The market seemed to really embrace those comments from the president last night in the Oval Office. And then today, we've got a bit of a war of words now here between the U.S. side and the Chinese side. Take a look at this statement released by the Chinese embassy in the United States earlier today. They say, if a negotiated solution is truly what the U.S. wants, it should stop threatening and blackmailing China and seek dialogue based on equality, respect, and mutual benefit. To keep asking for a deal while exerting extreme pressure is not the right way to deal with China and simply will not work. Now, that's from a spokesperson for the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And we also had Treasury Secretary Bessent make some comments in response to a Chinese trade minister who had implied that the tariff levels from the U.S. were just a joke. Here's what Bessent said. He said, I think the Chinese trade minister called it a joke. They must have a different sense of humor in China than we do, and I don't think any of this is funny. So a bit of a heated back and forth, guys, and we're trying to sort of get to the bottom of the idea of whether there are any talks at all at any meaningful level here between the U.S. and Chinese sides. Treasury Secretary Bessent saying earlier to reporters that there are no talks just yet, guys. Back over to you.
Okay, outside of the actual language, Eamon, and you and I kind of talked about this about a week ago.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to editorialize a little bit, if you don't mind, my friend, which is, we have not seen Peter Navarro or heard from him as much as we have in the past. Scott Bessent has taken more of a leading role. Do you believe, or are people you're talking to saying that Bessent being a little more out front might be a positive thing for the market, or at least he's getting more time out front, leading the White House's, I'm trying to choose my words carefully, leading the White House's messaging, because they recognize the market does value Bessent, I think, a little bit more?
Yeah, I think you're right, Brian. There's no question that Bessent has been more in the forefront here in recent days, and no question that the market sees Bessent as the most sort of Wall Street friendly official on this White House economic team. And he was in the Oval Office last night with the president as the president was making those comments that we were talking about that really boosted the market this morning. So I think all that is right, but there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on here. I want to just flag for you, there's a story that just popped on Axios, and we haven't had a chance to run this down yet, but what they're reporting is that Elon Musk and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent got into a heated shouting match in earshot of President Trump and other officials at the White House last week during a dispute about the IRS. And there's a quote here from a witness to the argument who said it was two billionaire middle-aged men thinking it was WWE in the halls of the West Wing. So clearly some tension behind the scenes, certainly, if you believe that Axios report, and we'll see what the White House has to say about that in terms of what the IRS's role is going forward. And obviously there's some shifting, if you're doing the Kremlin watching, there's some officials shifting to the forefront and some officials shifting to the background here as we watch all that play out.
Eamon, who was it in the shouting match?
It was Elon Musk and Treasury Secretary Bessent. According to the new Axios reporting.
And the story says it was loud, that it started in the Oval Office. President Trump saw it. The two men kind of dispersed, but then got back into it in the hallway. I don't like arguing. I'm not a big arguer, Eamon. But I will say that the White House is kind of like a newsroom in some ways. I would believe that healthy debate is often welcome, but maybe not open shouting. There was no fisticuffs, apparently.
Yeah, look, we'll see what the White House has to say about this report. But look, clearly, there have been shouting matches in the White House before, and there's huge stakes here and very high tensions and often very big egos. And so that's sort of a cauldron for that kind of thing. But it is worth noting when it does happen that there's some flashpoint and some tension between some of these officials. At the same time that Elon Musk is saying on his conference call that he's getting ready to step back from Doge and their work is wrapping up and he's going to be spending more time on Tesla. So you wonder how much of that is Elon feeling that his influence is waning here as he's on his way out the door, at least is what he told investors yesterday.
It's also interesting as you kind of read into the report, like you said, Eamon, that this dispute erupted over whose choice to lead the IRS the president would go with. So it's not like this is an ideological dispute per se.
Yeah, well, I mean, personality can be ideology. Like, who is in the seat really matters. But there were reports that the Treasury Secretary was upset that the head of the IRS was put in place at Elon Musk's behest, and that he didn't have the appropriate oversight over that, and wanted to switch out those personnel. And you know, the old saying in Washington is personnel is policy, right? If you pick somebody because you know they're a person who leans this particular way, you put them in place to do that thing.
Yeah.
And so having the say over a very high office like that is hugely important and hugely meaningful.
Feels like Bessent is kind of flexing a little bit, maybe against Navarro, now maybe against Musk. And yes, Eamon, I did say fisticuffs. Don't judge me for that. Eamon Javers, okay. I'm going to knock you in the mug.
I don't have to get in the boxing ring with you, Brian.
I don't know what year this is.
You've got that long reach.
I'm stuck in the 50s. Eamon Javers, thank you very much.
Boxing ring, it's WWE. Both of those have already been cited here.